All right, everybody, welcome to this month's planning party. I am so excited that you are joining us. We're going to start with a quick round of introductions before we get started. And so I want you to let us know, I mean, obviously your name, we can see your name and most of us know each other a little bit better by now, but just give us like the one sentence explanation of what you do, who you serve, how you fill your time. That does not have to be business or career. You can keep it totally personal. And then what your focus for today's planning party is. So is it strictly with your business or your career? Is it with your personal life? Is it a big project that's coming up? Is it a little bit of all the things where you're just taking a big bird's eye view of the month? And then share with us either your biggest planning win or your biggest planning challenge from this past month. All right. Who is ready to go? Can I put somebody on the spot? Crystal, you were like, yeah, you can put people on the spot, and you nodded. So go for it, girl.
I cheated. I got ready first. Woohoo. I'm
good. That's not cheating, by the way. That's called being prepared.
Copy and pasting last month. Anyway, I'm from Elmira, Ontario, home of the Maple Syrup Festival. And I'm an educational therapist. I'm the associate director at Breakthroughs in Learning, and we develop brain skills underneath learning and careers. Super passionate about the work I do and supporting my team. For this month, it's again just balance and boundaries around work and home. And my win from last month sounds a little dramatic, but it's survival. My husband was off work unexpectedly, and we had some major family stuff happening. So I'm looking forward to getting into this party so that I can feel a little bit more equipped and ready for next month.
Yeah, sounds good. Sometimes we need those resets, hey? To just be like, okay, that happened. That was a little bit crappy. That was unexpected, not what I'd hoped for. Let's just hit the reset button. Yes, so good. And I saw that he got a new job.
Yes, he did.
On Facebook, so that's very exciting. So, yay. All right, Gleneth, you ready?
Hello, I'm Gleneth, and I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee. I am an SEO and Google Ads expert, and I help businesses get visible online. And if I'm not doing that, I'm probably in the gym. I think my focus for this month, because again, I can't believe September is just right around the corner, with my vacation coming up, is going to be just kind of mapping out my 3 goals, personal and business, getting it down on my calendar and doing a little bit of personal and business. Because I think my biggest planning win is I've actually had a lot of days to weeks or weekends lately that have really been the perfect mix of rest, relaxation, productivity, fun. Like it's like, oh, this was an ideal weekend. I got so much done, both business and personal, and even had a nap. So I want to continue doing what I'm doing to try to keep that going.
Love that. That's so good, eh? When we actually go, oh, that ideal weekend or that ideal schedule I've been elusively chasing after that I've not been able to catch. I just experienced that. Wow, that's really cool. So that's a huge win. Absolutely. All right, Natalie.
Hi, I'm Natalie from Bundle Baby, and I have so much going on. It's crazy. So September is like prepping for a launch that I'm having in October, and it's like a new product, and I'm everything. It's hang tags, it's marketing, social media, it's influencers, everything's going on. August was hard because the kids were home, my husband was home, everybody was home, busy, and but one of the wins from last month was working at getting back and having a regular movement, like exercise or what. So I've got that pretty down pat this month. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Yay. That is so good. I love that. Sometimes those personal wins, like we think, oh, that won't be a big deal if I do that. But we see then how that influences everything else, and how it's like, oh, when I do this, I have more energy, which means I can do this and I'm more focused. And, like, and they all trickle down. So that's what I have to tell myself.
And you think better, everything. It's just one good habit seems to bleed into a bunch of other ones. So
absolutely. That's why James Clear talks a lot about habit stacking, because he's like, you do one habit and then that all of a sudden motivates you to add this other habit. And it's like, that's way better than trying to do, I'm going to overhaul my life and do 10 new habits all at once. Like, that never works. That's why we fail. That's why New Year's resolutions in the goal or habit way, when everyone wants to like clear the slate and start over, why that's usually not effective. So yeah, that's so great that you have evidence now of one small habit and how that can make a difference. All right, Susan, you can go ahead and then we'll wrap up with Jay. You have to unmute yourself, Susan. Sorry, my dear. You got it?
Sorry, okay. That's really funny, because that's exactly what I was doing. Since doing the sleep challenge, it kind of bled into getting back on an exercise track, which then I realized I've been eating too much junk food. It's been very stressful. And so now that's leading me to do Whole30 for September. So I'm eating as much junk food as I can right now, because there's a countdown. So I think I focused a lot of this year on, since I haven't been working, on getting our house ready to sell, and Mitch is back at work and all that's good. But I booked to go to a big blogging conference in September to really push me. I was kind of delaying it because I said, well, my website's not ready. I'm working on my content. Everything is totally undone, but I'm just going to push myself to go, and then we'll just see what happens.
Yes, absolutely. So many times in life and in business, we have to take that step when we don't feel ready, because that's when the magic happens. So love it. All right, Jay.
Peace, everybody. I feel like I'm just in a big transition soup. It seems like I'm getting the message that it's time to recommit to what I enjoy. I got reminded or heard the message that trying to save the world is not necessarily the best thing for one to try to do. It could be better to spend one's time focusing on getting oneself together, and then letting that transformation flow out into the world. And so that's where I'm at, just reevaluating how I spend my time, both personal and professionally.
I love that. And I love that phrase, transition soup. That is actually such a good analogy, which I would say the last 4 months I have been stirring that pot right with you in my own life. So yeah, that's so great. And what you said is so important. I think the dream big, you can do anything you want, go after your dreams. I think that messaging is great in the sense that it's positive, but I think what's happening is this whole generation has grown up thinking they can do absolutely anything, but then they also think that means they can do everything. And so I think that's really crippling, because we don't understand our own frailness and our own humanity, and the fact that like we can burn out and we can get sick and we can get injuries and all of this. And you have to understand our humanness and our potential, right? And those two things can kind of conflict sometimes, and there's that tension there. So I think that's a beautiful realization, Jay, because what I had to realize back at the beginning of my journey, when I was in such dire straits with my health, was like, I'm going to help no one if I am not healthy. Like, so I have to help myself first. And so I think that's so good. All right, you guys, let's start planning, shall we? All right, we are going to start the planning party by focusing on reflection. And so the questions that are in your workbook, what am I grateful for? What were some highlights? What did I learn about myself, about others, about my family? Were there any major milestones? What did I do to celebrate or record them? What do I need to adjust, stop, start? And then the question that you may have answered one of these from is, what part of the planning process went well? What part of the planning process was challenging? And so what we're going to do right now is I'm going to set a 4-minute timer on my phone. I will mute the recording for those of you who might be watching the replay. And I want you to answer whatever of these questions are jumping out to you. So for those of you that have been on a lot of planning parties, you know it is not about doing this in order. It's not about answering all of them. It's about skimming through that list and going, what do I know I need to answer and write down in this season? And that's where the awareness and the amazing like aha moments come from, is when we're able to like put aside, I have to do it this way or answer these questions. So I'm going to set a timer. I picked up my phone and then I was talking, so I can't do two things at once apparently. All right, I'm going to set a 4-minute timer and then we'll be back. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and I'll keep an eye on that. All right, that went real fast. But I would love to know in the chat, you guys, if there was something that really stuck out for you in one of these questions. I didn't have a planning process in August. There's just a moment of transparency for you. I teach about it and I didn't have it. I was like, in July, I basically was like, yeah, you know what? We're just going to enjoy summer and August is going to be free. Joseph's like, we weren't really doing much in the evenings. And like, I was like, no, we just had a free for all basically. And just, you know, what happened. And so sometimes like, that's okay. My biggest thing that I learned about myself, which was great to reinforce through this question, which is something I've been thinking about in the last few weeks, but is I want to take summers completely off of my business. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like. It might mean like staying on social media a little bit and still sending out like emails to my community, but that's about it. No one-on-one clients, not running a group program, like just taking July and August totally off. So that's something for me. And hopefully just by sharing some of these things that come up for us in the reflection part, we're able to encourage each other. So did anybody have any other notes? And yes, Natalie, summer's off. I've just decided, you know what? That's what I want to do. She's going to be in school for forever. So like, I just want to be able to spend the summer with her every year. Jay, what I'm grateful for. Oh, YouTube affirmation videos. Nice. That's always great when you can find some like good resources that connect with you. So awesome. I think I just clicked off and then I was like, I think someone just posted, but I missed it. All right, so priorities, words of the year, 2019. I was listening to a podcast episode, and you know what? I don't even remember which one it was or who it was, but they were talking about this interesting thing with like habits and how people don't accomplish them because they like set these goals and they never look at them again. And I was like, unless you join monthly planning parties and you're forced to look at them every month. I was like, and then they're in front of you. And that truly is what is such a big challenge about setting goals or priorities or writing experience statements at the beginning of the year, is if you do not look at them, you cannot make progress. You have to look at them and put them in your calendar and actually make them a priority in order for you to move them ahead. So anyway, I was like, I got a system for making those goals happen. You do not have to drop off, guys. Anyway, we'll tell the world later. 2020 is the year to tell the world. All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to review your word vision for the year, your focus areas or experience statements just for 2019, actually, and do this quarter, because in your worksheet, it's got us doing vision for the year, focus word, goals and priorities for the year, and then for the quarter. So let's do all of that, because for most of us, that's already written down. We're just going, finding it, reading it through again, typing it out, copying and pasting, but read it. If you copied and paste it, don't just sit there and twiddle your thumbs. Read it. And so do everything that you have already just determined. And then we'll do our priorities for this month after we have read all of that. All right, so I am going to give us 3 minutes because that's actually a lot of information to write and to read. And then we will be back to decide our focus for the month. All right, so hopefully that helped you refocus a little bit. It's always such a great reminder about like what's actually important to me. What did I say was a priority? And one of the things that I found very interesting is 2 of my priorities for the quarter had changed and adjusted. And so I was like, yeah, we're just going to make some changes. That's no longer a priority for the quarter. And so it's interesting to see how something that I said was important. It's like, oh yeah, I bumped that course and I bumped that course and I am not doing that anymore. I'm doing this instead. And wow, this all feels way more in alignment with what I'm wanting to do. Did anyone have like a realization or an aha or like, oh, as I plan September, I really need to keep this in mind? Did anybody have something like that? Let us know, because it's very common and you are not the only one if that has happened to you.
My basic thing that started last month was simplify everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that included my goals. At first, I had having a course launch, experiencing heightened well-being, transcend triggers, and now it's just strengthen my foundation. Just that's it. So
Yes.
going to bed at a regular time and having a morning and evening routine so that I can build from that. So I can more easily do a course launch.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that we have talked about on planning parties before is this element of so many times we want to get really, really specific with priorities. And I think, Crystal, this has been part of your journey too. And realizing, oh, instead of like making one of my priorities walking, it's like if I make one of my priorities my personal health, that includes a lot of different things. And as long as I'm doing something in there and moving that forward, I'm accomplishing that priority and moving that priority forward. And so sometimes we try to be too specific and then that really restricts us and we're like, but I have all the things. And it's like, it's okay to make your priority encompass a little bit more. And so I love that you're just simplifying that. You're saying, hey, strengthen the foundation. This is what's important. And you're right. All the other things flow out of that. So great. Now what we are going to do is based upon that, I want you to choose no more than 3 priorities to focus on during this next month. So look at what you said your priorities were for the quarter. What has to get done in September, or September is the last month of the quarter. So I get that some of you might be like, well, I have to do all the things. Not necessarily, not if that's not a fit. And again, you can make it a little more general. So for me, what I decided looking at this, and let me find my worksheet, is that I am not splitting out my different launches as different priorities. I'm going to put as like my top priority for September, launch new Modern Planner offers. And just keeping it simple because there's 3 different things that I'm doing in September. And rather than listing those out as 3, it's like, that's my priority. And then executing the quarterly and making sure that goes well. And then I want to have a personal one, right? And so that's just an example of how you can shift things. So rather than do all of that. So anyway, hopefully that's helpful. Ooh, Crystal said, I am feeling nervous. Tranquility has been my word for this year. I was expecting to be farther ahead and feeling more of that. The end of the year is coming. Here's the thing. You were expecting to be farther ahead. However, what does farther ahead mean? How do you even measure that? and you were expecting, you can change your expectation. Like, there's so many different ways to look at this, because what happens is we take these things that we feel like we want to do. For instance, my word is peace. I don't feel like I'm walking out peace every day. However, at all, actually. However, if I look and I think about my business, Modern Planner feels more peaceful, more in aligned than it did at the beginning of the year, and especially through the spring when like transition soup, right, Jay? So it's less about measuring it and more about, have I been in pursuit of this? And am I experiencing it a little bit more here and there than I was? Then it's working. Because Crystal, to quote yourself, progress is perfection, right? And so that's, I think, the biggest thing that happens. And Jay, the feeling disappointed about, goals that we haven't completed yet. Here's the thing. It is okay to postpone things and push things forward. Like, that is okay. What's important is that we're focusing on the things that matter. And the things that matter shift. So for instance, Crystal, you decided to allow family things to shift your priority. And instead of pursuing tranquility in August, you pursued strengthening your family dynamics and responding to what needed to happen. Winning, right? And so I think it's just really important. Like, no, you're not farther behind in achieving your goals. You just shifted your priorities. And now you're like, okay, this is taken care of. Now I want to shift it back. Perfect. Your life. You get to choose, right? And that is the beauty. The beauty of priorities is that we are in control of them and we can change them as long as we let go of the guilt that accompanies the shifting, right? And so that's what I would encourage you to do, especially Jay, with you saying, yeah, you know what? I want to do this course, but I need to be stronger first. That's just you shifting the priority. So now don't allow yourself to feel guilty about not doing the course. You're like, no, I chose a different priority. I chose that my health and this strengthening this foundation, whatever that looks like for you, is more important. So we have to let go of the guilt that accompanies shifting our priorities and realize it's just a shift. You can shift back whenever you want. But we need to do what's important to us now. Okay. And now I'm going to get off my little soapbox. Okay. Yes. And Jay said, true. Things did shift. Unexpected things did pop up that required attention. And this is where the giving ourselves grace comes in. We cannot expect ourselves to be making progress in living more intentionally and pursuing the things that are important to us if we're laying guilt and literally like picking up backpacks full of guilt every time we shift our priorities. No, it's your right to change your priorities. So don't make your journey heavier just because you do that. Yes. And Crystal's quote, so some backstory for those of you that don't know, in one of her testimonials, like last year, she said the biggest thing for me, I don't even remember the exact words, but she said, in the quarterly, I have learned that progress is perfection. Because I brought up the Lara Casey quote a lot because for a couple years, it was like a big mantra for me, progress, not perfection. She says that everywhere. But when Crystal shifted that in her testimonial, I was like, I'm going to use that all the time. You okay with that? So most of the time, especially if she's on live, I'm able to like give her credit. But even if I'm talking to someone else, I said, someone in my group program in her testimonial, and now this is like a quote we use. So anyway, we use it all the time. Progress is perfection. So, and when I talk about that, I want to remind you, it doesn't matter how slowly you are moving, right? That's the important piece. It does not matter how slowly you are moving. If you are still facing the direction you want to go and you inched forward, that's perfect. You're making progress. And that is the point, right? If you've turned around and you're heading in the opposite direction, then no progress has been made. But as long as your intent is still there and you're still making the tiniest of steps, you're making progress. And so Susan said, it's so helpful. Great that you have to simplify. Yes, you'll get more done in the long run. I'm a year behind with my blog business, but oh well, it will get done. And the thing, Susan, is for you, that's such a perfect example of how priorities shifted. Because suddenly last year you're like, oh, we need to sell the house. And I mean, you guys have been doing it, all the things and the big renovations and the like all the stuff, right? And so a big priority came up and you said, okay, this is important now, so this is what I'm going to focus on. Just like me this summer, both of our laptops needed new batteries, so I didn't even have a computer for 2 weeks. And I was basically just like, yeah, you know what, forget it, I'm just going to enjoy summer with my daughter and do what I absolutely need to keep things running, but like not worry about it. I'm not doing any extra products, I'm not doing any extra work, I'm just running the quarterly and having a great summer. And it's been wonderful because over the years, I have practiced taking the guilt off and like leaving the backpack where it belongs, which is not on my back. So now, after we've had that little pep talk, I want you to choose your top 3 priorities for this month. What are they going to be? How are you going to get clear? How are you going to be focused? How are you going to give yourself grace, show yourself love in these priorities? Those are the things I want you to think about, along with your quarterly objectives and priorities that you said you wanted to do. So that's what we're going to do next. All right, let me check how long we usually spend. Just like 3 minutes, a minute for each. But this is what I ask you to do live. Type out your 3 priorities in the chat when you've got them. And then if everyone's got them in the chat earlier than that, then I will wrap things up and we will do it sooner. So you guys have some really great priorities for this month. Super excited about it. Crystal, I love that you have health, family time, staff support, how you've got those 3 big buckets. It's really important to give ourselves those big buckets because rather than date nights being one of your priorities, now you're including the girls and it's about family time. So I love it. Natalie, your launch, daily movement, and maintaining connection with husband. So that is so great and can be really hard in busy months. Susan, complete all house projects by October 1st. What? That's amazing. So good. Start your website and content creation and start job search. I love it. So clear. And what I'd recommend that you do for something like start job search or website and content creation is get very clear about what that means for you. Because start job search could mean just like looking through a few sites, or that could mean you have your resume updated by the end of the month and you have a list of 5 prospective jobs that fit the criteria you're looking for because you've already decided that and now you're ready to go ahead and start applying, right? And so I think it's really important for different things, even like family time, right, Crystal? So as you think about what planning approach you're going to take, go, okay, what are some of the guidelines I want to set around this? What does family time look for us? For this month, it looks like doing house projects and hanging around at home and going to the Drumbo Fair and near the end of September and, doing some of those things. And so think about how you can do that. Jay, I love strengthen morning and night routine habits, strengthen connection with my inner self, and strengthen wellness, promoting mindset. And so obviously your goal is to strengthen your foundation, and that is your overarching thing for the month. And so I think that's really fantastic. The one thing I will caution anyone, and this is, I'm only just picking on this up because everyone else's is spread out a little bit more, having all personal priorities or all business priorities can sometimes leave us feeling a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? It can sometimes cause us to have unmotivated moments, I guess is a way of putting it. So just be aware of that. If you ever are so heavily focused on personal or on business, that in having it like that can be great. You can make some amazing progress, but it can also cause you to feel like you're missing some little area of your life. So I always recommend to people, try to do 2 and 1 if you can, in whichever area you feel like needs to be most important. So just something to think about, Jay. And that doesn't mean you need to change anything. I would just create some sort of goal that has to do with your business so that you're moving something ahead and it keeps you motivated. Otherwise, you could find a lot of times what can happen is we procrastinate on those things because we don't have a deadline or something that we've given ourselves. So then we end up pushing it off. So just a note. And I love that Susan said unfocused on one versus the other. So sometimes if we aren't focused at all, then it can get a little bit out of whack. All right, so you guys have all been on planning parties before, so let's just review the planning approaches real quick. Next step is what is the next step I need to do that? So job search, that could be one of those. That's a great example of a next step. Project plan, well, that would be Natalie's launch. That would be your project plan, which we were chatting on Trello, right? And you've already got your lists and your tasks, and you've got things written out. Daily habit. So that is that element of how can I do something every day? Crystal, I actually think you can have daily for all three. I think should be included for you, because I think sometimes it's the little things that when they add up can make the biggest difference, but we discount those. So rather than focusing on date nights, I would focus on that daily 5 minutes of connection with each family member, or, you know what I mean? Something that's really going to help you like connect in those smaller pieces. So daily habit is when we're really trying to, like Jay's morning and evening routines, like really kind of work on that. Then we've got our weekly action. So those things that we want to move forward, but we don't need to be focusing on every day. So for instance, a weekly for me would be the quarterly. So working on quarterly content and building the community is not something I do every day. Now in September, it might be now that I'm going to have childcare and I'm going to be actually working on my business. It might be, but usually if I do 1 or 2 blocks each week where I hop in Slack, I reply to emails, I'm moving content forward for the next month, working on the emails, that's usually more than enough for me, just a couple times a week to keep things moving. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes because I think that you guys are brilliant and are going to know your planning approaches real fast. So take 2 minutes and decide which combination of approaches you are going to use for each one, or just which one. All right, does everyone have their planning approaches for each priority? Perfect. All right, so now that you've got your planning approaches for each of them, what I would like you to do is choose one priority that over the next little bit, we're actually going to really create and break down our plan for, so that we've got some more detail. So go ahead and choose that. And I'm going to read Susan's comment. She said, I find daily and weekly actions always apply to all of my priorities. Keeps me moving forward, and I feel like I have something to check off the list. Totally agree. I include either daily or weekly for all of my priorities all the time. Because if I'm not checking in on a priority every week, or if I'm not trying to put it in my calendar every week, for me, I forget about it and it just doesn't happen. So for instance, my launches is project plan with daily action. Now, daily action means weekday workday action, not like every single day of the week. But my executing content is weekly action and project plan. And then my simple fall is project plan and weekly action. And it might actually include daily too, but I've just done weekly. So I always include daily or weekly for sure. And I find that that's super helpful. All right. Does everyone have their one priority that they are going to focus on planning right now? Yes. Okay. Perfect. So then let's jump to that. So I'm going to give you, about 7 minutes to really create your plan, document some stuff, get some things on paper. If you're working through the project, just a note that the project plan is in your workbook. So decide direction, identify your constraints, define those key phases, and then create the detailed plan. Figure out what those phases are. I'm working on another project idea for a physical product, which hopefully 2020 will be coming out. But this is my like scribbled notes right here. But this is for like a Gantt chart flow is what I meant to say. So if I'm doing something like that, and I really have broke down not projects necessarily, but big, like a launch or something bigger, into these 6 different brackets, which is probably going to be refined, but I'll just share it with you anyway. The first one is plan. So it's like, when am I planning? Like, what day of the week or what week of the month am I planning? Then when am I building that out? When I'm actually like doing the work? Then I have prepare as a separate thing, because I think building the product and then doing the preparation for it, which is like marketing materials, the final details, all that tech stuff. Then I have market. So it's like promote, share, sell, whatever that is. Then it's execute. So it's running the thing. It's actually making it happen. And then it's the follow-up, which is the debrief. And so for me, how I'm going to use this is look at my fall and make sure that I'm in a different stage for each project I'm at. That I'm not trying to market 2 things in the same week, that I'm not trying to build things at the same time, that I focus and make sure that I'm building this, but then I'm preparing this one, and then I'm marketing this one, so that I'm overlapping and not doing too much. So anyway, just a little side note about projects, that sometimes we can try to do multiple projects all at the same time, but then that can get really overwhelming. So trying to stagger them a little bit. So that's something that I'm working on to help me visually see and plan projects out. All right. So, so what the product is, I don't know how to describe it, but we're working on probably like a quarterly, spread is one of the things that I want to do that is going to be really helpful for like project and like planning from like a big picture. It's hard to get really cool, like planning things. So rather than just like a 3-month calendar, it's going to be like a 3-month, like planning thing that you can put out on your wall and like use in meetings and stuff like that. So that's one of the product ideas that we have. That and a planner hopefully will be coming out in 2020. So anyway, oh, Jay, okay, I'm going to let you guys, what about a modern planner app? Also on the list, but not in the next couple of years, probably. Well, at least not in the next year. Maybe after that. I love it. Thanks, you guys. Your encouragement is awesome. I do want to read Jay's comment because she revised her top 3 priorities. And so morning routines, strengthen connection. And then her third one is start with doing 10 minutes each for passion and talents, and for biz 1 hour of the day. So just doing little chunks and just moving things forward. And so I think that that's great, having that goal of spending 1 hour a day, moving ahead, whatever's next for my business. So I love that. Okay, let's get this planning of this top priority project started. So I'll set my timer is going. So I'll check back in about 7 minutes, but I'll keep an eye on the chat. All right. How did everyone's planning go? I hope it went really well. We got to 7 minutes and I was like, whoa, I'm not done yet. So I added 2 more minutes to the timer. It was a little selfish, but like you guys were all heads down. So I was like, I think it's okay that we have more time, and we're doing pretty good on time. So I was like, just going to give us a few more minutes. And also I was like, I am on a roll. I need to finish getting this out of my brain. Natalie, your comment is so accurate. It is so much easier to stay focused during the live parties when you show up live than it is on a replay. You have to be pretty disciplined, which some women are. Like some women, especially our lovely ladies over in Australia, who can't make it live very often. Because, I mean, they'd have to be getting up sometimes at 7 in the morning. Usually, actually, when we do them at night Eastern, they're making it the next day. But yeah, you've got to be pretty disciplined to be able to like watch the replay, focus, and like do the work. Okay, so tiny little sneak peek. So that's really exciting. So what we're gonna do now is we are going to put that into our schedule and give it deadlines. So I want you to look at the plan that you just created, and I want you to go, okay, how does this fit into my month? Now, some of you, did any of you do this while you planned? I want to know. Did any of you have like week 1, 2, 3, 4 of the month, and as you were putting things in, you kind of blocked out when you were going to do it? Anybody? Crystal's nodding. Okay, so Crystal, unmute yourself. Tell us kind of how you did that, what that looked like. Can you find it? There you go.
Where's the button? Not the microphone, down at the bottom. I have my monthly calendar kind of naked, and then I transfer it over each time. And so part of it is the weekly review that I kind of have set up as well. So I kind of sneak it into there as well.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So sometimes, especially as you do more planning, you'll be able to plan and give yourself timelines and deadlines at the same time. Sometimes we need to just create our project plan and then we look at it, we go, oh, I cannot do that in 4 weeks. I need to give myself more time or whatever it is. So whether it's creating your timeline and deadlines or putting some of that into your calendar, I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes to put that one big project into your calendar, into your schedule, and give yourself some deadlines and look at, okay, when do I need to get this done to do this done? I like doing it working backwards. I just think that's the most effective way to do it. So even as I was just planning, I was like, okay, this is launch day. I don't think I can get all that. So what I was just telling you guys about the planning party package, for instance, like I don't know that I'm going to be able to get that whole content and all that core set up. I might have the welcome, and then I might say, you're going to get all the content's going to drop on October 1st or September 25th or something, rather than having it all there when people purchase, because depending on my other deadlines that I have, that may or may not be realistic, right? And so I'll only know as I get started. So I'll give you 5 minutes to work on the scheduling piece, and then we will be back. All right, so now that we've got that project kind of in your calendar, just an example for you guys in like what this looks like for me. When I planned out kind of like my priority into my calendar, I did week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 in Trello, and I just kind of put the major like milestones and stuff, not all the little steps. I'll go down and break that out later. But I did that, and then what I was working on during the schedule piece is putting in big time blocks, like 1 to 3 hours, or like I did a full day for something, and I said, okay, if these are my priorities, I need to be at least this many hours, and like I put those time blocks in for my day. So I'm basically creating my schedule for September based around what I need to do. So that's an example of how I did it this time, but it's different every time. So just like to share those examples for you guys. All right. Now, those other 2 priorities that you have, right? So in our worksheet, we had 3 priorities for the month. The one we planned and we've put in our schedule. Those other 2 priorities, what I want you to do is look at them and say, okay, are they in my calendar? And if they're not, I want you to block some times to do that. So I am going to give you 2 minutes, and I want you to look at how and when you're going to put those things in your calendar for the month of September. All right, we are going to move on to the very last step of what we do on our monthly planning parties, and that is going through the month in chronological order, day by day by day, looking at what our deadlines are, what the things we need to do, what events we're going to. This is where you think about events you're going to, babysitters you need, date nights you need to book, open invitations, things you haven't RSVP'd to. You're looking at your launch dates and what night you might need to order in dinner instead of cooking it, right? Like the things like, oh yeah, I need to be aware of that or pay attention to that, and putting notes in. Your birthdays, the gifts that need to be bought. Like these are all things. Also, by the way, one of the best tips is to look at all the birthdays or celebrations you have an entire month. Write down a list of all the things you need to get for them, all the cards, and you sit down and write all the cards at one time, and you put them in a pile that you don't lose, but you just have everything ready for the month there to go, and you get it done in the first weekend of the month or something like that. So those personal things that like take all that time, that's a great thing to batch. So anyway, just throwing that in there because I did that recently for June or whatever month it was, and it worked so good. Usually I'm a couple weeks ahead, but when there's so many things together, it's like, just do it all at one time. Save yourself the time. Crystal was like, I saw engagement in my calendar. And I'm like, what is going on? But you're hosting an engagement party, which is super exciting. This is why we go through our calendar. Okay, I'll set the timer for 5 minutes. We'll start this. We don't usually finish this on the call because it can take like up to 45 minutes to go through your calendar day by day if you realize like, oh, I do not have a lot of stuff in there, or there's things missing. But let's start with 5 minutes. Either you can start today and go day by day, or you can start on September 1st, whatever works best for you. All right. How did everybody go with going through September? Crystal, your name is partly over your face, so I couldn't totally see, but the top half of your face looked like you were not super thrilled about how that all went. But that's okay. This is why we do this, right? Can you imagine life where you didn't review your month and you didn't look at your calendar and you weren't prepared, right? But this is what most of us experienced prior to understanding planning parties and like, oh, this is such a good thing to do. So for instance, it was way easier tonight for me because Joseph and I actually sat down. What night was it? It was just last night, actually, Sunday night. And we went through September and made some decisions about things, looked at some evening stuff. But when I was going through it, something made it on our hard copy calendar. This is our calendar that sits in our kitchen, by the way. So something that was on here, as I was going through day by day, I was missing something in my digital calendar. So an example of how it is so easy to miss things, which is why we make sure that everything is the same. By the way, this is Muji. My Muji calendar. I switched it up, and so we do daytime, evening, breakfast, lunch, dinner. So I do my meal planning on the same calendar as we can see what's happening. And anyway, I tried it in 2019 and it was amazing and I really like it. There's a few changes I would like to make. So, you know, when I have my own wall hanging calendar, there'll be a few personal updates. Anyway, do you guys feel like you made some progress though on looking at September and you're feeling good about it? What I would encourage you to do as soon as this call is over is book time in your calendar to finish this plan if you did not get it done. So if you still have projects and things you're working on in the month of September and you're like, I don't feel quite ready, that's okay. You've got the rest of the week. That's why we don't wait until the 30th or the 31st to have our monthly planning parties. I try to do it 4 to 5 days before the new month starts so that we've still got some time to finish things up and we're able to hit the month starting strong. So before we wrap up, do you guys have any last questions, parting words, encouragement for each other, anything like that that you want to share? Let me know. And you can just unmute yourself. You don't have to type. So if you're typing.
Okay, busted.
Okay.
I was just going to agree with what Natalie said earlier about how I just appreciate the accountability and the productivity that happens in these calls. So
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So good. And I'm glad that you guys experience oh my gosh, when I show up live and I do this, I'm more focused, and like, that's really encouraging. Because yes, I think watching the replays is so valuable. However, I do think that you've got more of the accountability. You're able to learn and like experience real time. It's more like live coaching planning party than just like watching it back, because you're able to ask questions and get answers to your questions. So yeah, I'm glad that works. So.
Yeah, I do appreciate the replays, but I know that I get distracted a lot easier. And, you know, the 4 minutes turns into 24 minutes. And so, yeah, this is lovely.
So good. So good. Any other thoughts as we wrap up, Natalie?
I didn't plan anything before this. Ever.
Really? Nothing?
I mean, I'd have an idea and I had a calendar. I've always I like paper. I like seeing it. I like scribbling, but I never set a date to anything. Like I would never set deadlines to stuff. And so this was a great, I got a lot from this, because with the launch, I have so many things and I just think I need to do everything tomorrow. But this really, it's ridiculous that I've only figured this out now, but I'm able to look, okay, this is what's good for the first week, for the second week. And then it's like, it's not so heavy on my heart that I have all this big list to do. It's really, okay, I'm going to tackle that in the third week. That's good. I've never done that before. So that.
Absolutely. I am so thrilled for you. And I can't wait to see how this launch goes for you with this different perspective, because also don't feel bad that you've never planned like this before and it took you this long. Like, everyone's journey is different, right? And it's just like, the fact is you've now figured this out. And from here on out, you're going to be able to be more calm and relaxed. And that is the goal of what we're looking for, right? When you know that something you've given it time in the future, you're not so worried about it right now. Yeah, what Crystal just said, giving each day or week a job so you can unload all the things in your head. So you're saying, okay, these tasks, this is what I'm doing you. And you already know that. So then you don't have to be as worried about it in the moment. And that reduces so much stress and overwhelm. And I think that's one of the biggest blocks, is helping people understand that, like, planning is actually going to save you time. Whereas we feel like, well, I don't have time to plan. I just have all these things I have to do. But if we can, stop and pause and really be like, okay, this is when I'm going to do these things, and we can get it done. And I was feeling super overwhelmed even just tonight as I was going through my week by week plan of September. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I knew that this was going to be a lot, but I was like, this is like a lot. But then I was like, no, wait, Catherine, as I started putting in all my blocks of time, I'm like, this is actually doable. I've given myself 2 full days in the calendar to do that one project. Like, I think I can get that done in like 12 or 13 hours. Like, I think I can do that. And maybe I'll do it faster. And so again, it's all about figuring out how long things take you. And in September, with these new projects I'm doing, I'm kind of guessing, right? Like, anyway, so yeah, but it's so good. I'm really glad that this was helpful for you guys. Thank you for sharing that encouragement. And I wish you an amazing September, because it's going to be good based on the priorities that everyone had on this call. I know everyone didn't make it until the end, but thank you guys for joining in, and I hope you have an incredible month.